Okay, so I'm doing it like this again with the lights down because I was already in the process of shutting off the lights so I could lie down and get some sleep, but that's when my mind starts processing everything at once, and it occurs to me that I kind of think of love and joy as like an all-purpose force. And of course, being me, another part of my mind goes, oh yeah, why's that? So then I have to make a case. And so I'm thinking about it. I'm like, the only reason for embracing this as like something to strive for in like the everyday, like we work to be physically fit, we get to medical appointments to make sure we're healthy, we go to counselors to make sure we're in our right mind, right? um, we do these things just to be well. And in that same vein, I would say learning to cultivate a certain amount of joy and love in life, to create that, to put it out there, to start the flow and to pour it where it's going to pour back to you, and through that circuit again and again, and it's just going to keep running. To be selective in that, but to make that a priority as much as physical or mental health. The emotional and spiritual health is, for me, a large part about making love and joy a priority in almost everything I do. And I think another thing about it is it seems like a soft way. It seems like, oh, isn't that cute? Love and joy, that's going to fix things. But it has a certain power that's not so obvious. And I spoke about this by saying, you want to know the character of people you're dealing with. Be you, be real, as much as it's strategically sound. You don't want to make yourself vulnerable to predatory behavior, but try to be as authentic as possible and as transparent and real, and bring that, because when people have ill intent, they usually don't want to tangle with that. It just doesn't sit right. And it's very similar for bringing like that light of love and joy into a space. People, it will attract people with less than honorable intentions, but they'll fall off pretty quickly when they realize that behind that there are essential boundaries, and there must be essential boundaries, because if you just go out loving and happy and you have nothing to sort of delineate the space around that and define where the points of connection are and are not, that's what boundaries are, then yes, it's going to be the the bloody mess you expect. But well boundaried love and joy, it's like Teflon. Things just slide off of it. People do not want to mess with that. And I think it's sort of the way that viruses can't survive UV light. And there's like a pathogen of the soul that can't survive the light of love and joy. It just withers and shrinks back into the shadows. And so it's actually a very powerful defense, at least, just with like almost a weapon, like a ray gun of like sunshine that just like makes certain things grow and other things sort of wither and slither back into the shadows. And yeah, I think that that's another reason, if the idea of being loving and joyous is too soft or saccharine or whatever, to realize that there's kind of a dark cosmic power behind it that works as a filter. Ultimately, what it does is it filters. People who can grow in that light will draw closer, and people who have that pathogen are going to pull away from it. And so, yeah, it's got this like Teflon quality, in terms of what we don't want, and it has this effect of, it acts like a beacon to draw what we do want to it, and it establishes where the ports are, and people can't just plug any crazy dark stuff into there. You're like, that plug doesn't fit in that port, sorry. And yeah, that's part of how it works. That when you reach a point that that is established and you bring all the force behind it, then it kind of sorts itself out. But it is critical. There are boundaries behind that too. I wasn't even, pardon, wasn't even thinking about it, but yeah, now I'm saying, I'm like, as with all things that are functional, healthy, sane, sound, and ultimately beneficial, it needs to be boundaried. So, just to be very clear on that point, um, there is that element, and then again, just for our health, it's for quality of life, right? And quality of connection, and what we bring to connection, and what we get from it, and how that really does define who we are and how we live. And when we get to the end of the ride and we're looking back, it would be nice to be able to say that we've lived well and in the light of love and joy. And so, yeah, this is kind of why I say sweetness is badass, because it's easy to be this way, and it's important we be this way. Putting on the act while suppressing other emotions is not healthy. That's not what I'm talking about. You have to be in a place where you can actually have that light in you and summon it and bring it forth organically, authentically. It has to come from the roots up. You can't grow flowers by pulling them up from the ground, right? This has to be roots up. But now I've lost my train of thought thinking about pulling flowers up. Got it. I'm saying it needs to be real, because if we're just putting on the act and suppressing emotions, we're going to cause a split and get sick, and that'll be counter to the whole purpose of the exercise. But to make it an ambition to be able to hold that light and bring it out is not a bad objective. To say, what do I define success as? Maybe success is being able to have and share that light in life with the right people. And it's important because it's whether you're pardon, throwing seed on dead ground or into fertile soil, right? And you're wasting seed if you throw it onto desert soil. It's probably not going to grow there. Where you take it somewhere lush and fertile, it's going to grow corn, as Chris Williamson says. That's another great question, is does this grow corn? Does this actually pardon, yield a product? Is this toward a fruitful result, right? Does it grow corn? And where we invest our energies, our emotions, our efforts, our other resources, you want to think it's going to grow corn, right? You don't want to wait a season to find out it couldn't grow by sitting on the dry clay. That's now what you've got to nourish yourself. So I'm all over the place, I know. It matters where we put it, and it matters that we come to a place where we know better. I think a lot of the damage we see and a lot of what people feel bitter about now is a result of people coming out without having that work done, without knowing ourselves, without having a good relationship with ourselves, without being able to connect with and draw out that natural love and joy that's in us. We are all born with it. Look at a newborn baby and tell me you can't see those forces working in them, for full range. They're often fussy and discontent initially. It's a bumpy journey coming into this life, but very quickly you see them giggling and cooing and feeling cuddly, and they reach out. We all start there. We all have the capacity. You hear children's laughter. We were children. We probably had that music in us, and it's still there. It's just lost under all this other damage because, again, we don't go in and connect with that and call that back into being and bring that into the world where we create, as I've said elsewhere, sort of little micro weather systems around us, and we play a big role in whether that's stormy or it's sunny or it's breezy or it's arid or it's constant downpour. We bring that energy, and in being able to connect with who we are essentially, and building relationships with ourselves, and connecting with that love and being able to bring it out and learn to share it with others and learning to receive love from others. It needs to be going all the way around me and my circuits, right? So it's a process to get there, but I think if we come from there, we won't see the damage and the trauma and the bitterness and the disillusion that we do see. I think this is the remedy for that, is we back up, slow down, take a breath, take stock, take baby steps towards being ready for that. And then when we come there and this light is on, and we connect that with other people's lights, it's so powerful. It's so radiant, and it's so lovely to be in that climate and to know that you play a role in creating that. It's very empowering. It's easy to feel aimless and disempowered, but when you have a purpose of walking in a room and making it a little brighter, it's easy to be on purpose, right? It's easy to be creating and actually achieving some state of fulfillment for yourself and those around you. And yeah, that's the other thing. You go out there, a lot of people hurt and a lot of people having a bad time, and sometimes just a drop of goodness like affects that whole bucket of suck, right? You're just like, I got my whole big bucket of suck, and somebody comes and drops something in and it like purifies it, and now you've got water that can quench your thirst. Speaking of which, yeah, and it would be nice to go and try to clean up the water supply, I guess, in this metaphor, because I think a lot of people are thirsty at a soul level for connection, for belonging, for a little bit of joy, something that doesn't suck, something that doesn't keep filling their big bucket of suck, right? Put a drop of something else in there, if only so we can remember there is something else to put in there. And sharing that with people, it benefits all concerned, right? And yeah, so I think love is a powerful currency, and I don't mean like, I think currency means money, but currency is anything you exchange. It could be power. We talk about like currency in electrics, right? So it's putting that on the line and charging other people up so that the people around you are better, like everything's better. And that's what I think is the underappreciated value of love. And I don't mean romantic love in this case. I mean love, human love, and the realization that we all suffer and we all have gifts and we all face challenges and obstacles. And I think at the end of the day, everybody gets 100 credits. It's just 100 credits of what did you get? And we all get different combinations. And in some weird way, there's something just and balanced about that. I know life can be cruel every moment of every day, whether the news is reminding us about it or not. Our fellow humans are suffering and struggling and facing atrocities, and it breaks my heart, but I know that being brokenhearted doesn't give me any greater power toward being at least not a problem in that, right? Some of it starts with just don't be a problem. And then trying to be of what good, of what service I can. And maybe just changing the climate around me and hoping it catches on, that it reaches the people who are in the most dire and incomprehensible situations. And yeah, none of this is without regard for that. I think that is sort of what separates people in those situations, the people who get up and get on with it, and the people who stay low and stay stuck, as Esther Perel has talked about, in terms of what her parents experienced in the refugee camps after they were they survived the concentration camps. Yeah, and seeing that some people just held on to it and stayed real low to the ground and never got on living, and others somehow were like, okay, we made it. Every day above ground is now a win. It always is, by the way. It's just certain experiences highlight that for us. They remind us what really matters. And people who are of the mindset to see that and seize it and capitalize on it, they're the ones who get busy living. And that's love. This is the love and the light I'm speaking of. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not all soft and fluffy sunshine and puppy dog tails or whatever. It's a real force of nature, and these are a few of the points I made to support my random bedtime claim that it is a force. This love and this joy that we can share is a powerful force, and so there are my thoughts on that. Okay, it's past curfew. I shouldn't be on. I have to go. All right, night-night. But wait, there's more. I just remembered I'd trailed off before and forgot what I was talking about. But the point I was trying to make is that this also speaks to why sweetness is badass. It's easy to be in a loving and joyous way when things are going our way, when we feel good. So, one, we have a responsibility to feel good. That's part of being able to be in that state, is making sure we feel well enough to bring and share that energy. But also that we need contingencies for when we may not have so much under us, or what's coming at us is more challenging, and that stance might get wobbly. How to maintain that stance becomes the question. And to me, it's actually just practice. It's conditioning. It's all the little things that don't seem to matter are opportunities for building that strength. So just every little kindness that you can spare, and every charitable thought you can default to, rather than maybe making up stories about people's motivations, right? Or whatever it might be. It's just trying to switch in a little bit of humor and compassion, and finding that love and joy in the moments where it's an effort to find it and to stay connected to it. And yeah, and then when it comes to it and you're facing down a barrage of negativity, it's like an intense, harsh energy coming at you. You're so practiced, and your reservoir is so full that it doesn't draw it down enough to make a difference. You just are almost default into this stance. And in the process, as I said, you create a beautiful world around you that benefits everyone. And so it's a wonderful workout to do that actually helps the health of everything in your life. If this is the objective, if this is the direction that you're moving in, you set a course along and toward that kind of joy, that kind of love, and you bring a sincere effort to it. You say, this is something I'm going to practice. It's like a discipline. I'm gonna remember in those moments I want to get mad in traffic and think, well, one for me is just to think, look, that guy cut me off, but it might have slowed me down just that few seconds. That, yeah, I'll be a few seconds later, but I may also avoid an accident down the road, right? Maybe that actually saved me. We don't know. I love the parable of maybe, and it goes on and on, that one thing happens and it seems wonderful, turns out it wasn't so great. Then something that seems great happens, turns out there's a cost for that, and then that turns out to be a benefit to something else. And how we really can't see the whole weave of the thing from where we sit. And I kind of try to remember that. I'm like, maybe that guy's a jerk and he's ruining my day because he just cost me 3.7 seconds on my way someplace. Or maybe that 3.7 seconds is all the difference between me getting in an accident a quarter mile down the road or me arriving safely, and I can't know. So why don't I just accept that this thing has transpired? I'm moving along now. Everything's pretty much okay, and just find my center. I don't even have to feel love toward him or gratitude towards the intervention that may have saved me. I can always put some sprinkles on it. It's enough just to say, look, I don't know. It's past and I'm moving on, and it's good, and there's joy in that. There's love for self, there's love for the moment, there's love for the gift that life is. And that's a way of expressing gratitude for that too. If you feel called to give thanks in prayer or ritual or in meditation or quiet moment under the trees, that's another way of expressing that. That's very beautiful and fruitful, and again very powerful in a number of ways. But yeah, it really is probably its most effective. It's always of some value, even if it's not at some Zen master level. It's of great value at every level. But ultimately, I think its real power shows when you can hold that stance, that be in that state, even when contempt, rage, just all this damnation coming at you. And you're like, this is what I mean. It's like Teflon. You're like, okay, I'm not taking this personally. I'm not taking it in. I'm not giving you permission to bring that into my experience at any deeper level than I have to do right now in this moment. In this moment, I have to honor that. That's what it's about. But there'll be a next moment that this isn't happening, and I don't have to carry it with me. That reminds me, there's a great story about two monks making their way from one monastery to another, and along the way they find this woman who's got her foot stuck, and she's trying to cross the river, and she's got her foot stuck, and she's in the rushing water, and they both stop, but one monk just kind of like thinks about it a second, strides out, gets her foot free, picks her up, carries her to the other side, makes sure she's okay, and they part ways. And they're traveling for a little while when the second monk says, "Brother, didn't we take a vow saying we would, like, give up all contact with the flesh?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, or it was something, not just contact, it was something about, like, why do I always mess up stories and jokes? See? Whatever. Here we go. The point is, the one monk was saying, like, you touched a woman, right? And the other monk says, yeah, but I left her at the river. Saying to the other monk, look, it's still in your mind. You're the one who's caught on it. I did a thing. I left it there. I got on. You're still there. You're still playing with it. Who's the one who should consider their vows, right? And I love the point of that being, where are you putting your attention moment to moment? What reality are you creating? What are you focusing on? And if the focus is love and joy, that's going to be your reality. So may the force be with us, right? Okay, I'm definitely delirious, and I should definitely wrap this again, but I thank you, and I look forward to more of this. Until then, take care.